Welcome to the No BS Short-Term Rental Podcast, an unfiltered look into the global vacation and short-term rental industry.
I'm Mateo Bradford.
And I'm John Stokinger.
And this is our podcast. We bring the right people to the table at the right time, giving you an inside view and take on the short-term rental industry like no other podcast can.
Morning, Mateo. How are you?
As usual, fantastic. How are you?
Good. Good Thanksgiving. You back from it? Are you still in Texas? Where you at?
I'm here. I'm back in Atlanta.
That's good. That's good. I feel
Atlanta.
A little bit. I took an extra day. I took Wednesday through Sunday off. Felt good. I know.
What did you do? But like you probably remodeled your kitchen or something like that.
Not this time. I played, you know what I did? I played a lot of video games. I played Cyberpunk 2077 on the PS5. I put it away. I shelved it because it was really glitchy. And I played some video games. It was pretty fun and hung out with the kids and ate way too much turkey. I'm still eating turkey. I think we got turkey soup again tonight for dinner. So I'm over turkey, but it's all good. Hey, we have some amazing guests today. And this is probably going to go out in a couple weeks. So season 3, episode 22 or 23, we'll see where it lands. But we have two amazing co-founders, both Rebecca Lombardo and Travis Wilburn of the 100 Collection. We're super excited to have you joining us today. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Welcome to the show. Best hats in the game right now. Thank you, everyone. For our people who can see this.
If you're watching on YouTube, it's a pretty dope hat. I mean, it's almost as nice as ours, but it's a pretty nice hat. I didn't get one, so I'm not as I didn't get one at Vermin International, so I'm not as hyped on it yet. But I'll be more hyped when I get one, and I'll share it up.
Kansas City, maybe before.
Maybe before. I could drop you my address. I'm okay with that. So we heard, at International, and we want to hear your story leading up to this, but at International, you guys did a pretty good job of hyping the 100 Collection. I do have a Matt Landau, I'm whatever, the black t-shirt. I did get that, and it mentioned the 100 Collection on there. Tell us about why that was your homecoming or your big, why International? I mean, obviously big audience, but what was the reception there of the 100 Collection?
I mean, it's been, as Mateo actually knows, this has been under wraps for years, since 2019, and in Las Vegas, having the largest attendance ever in VRMA history. I mean, there was probably no better time to be able to launch.
Right.
And so, it was just at, right time. And of course, with everything else that's going on within our industry, it just keeps getting better and better timing wise.
So,
because I could tell you about bad timing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a little bit of that. So let's go back to, this isn't either of your first foray in the industry. Travis, you've been doing this stuff for a long time. You're still running State Charlottesville. You've been doing lots of different things. Rebecca, I met you coming into this space when, I think it was True Place was your first, coming into our industry. Like, how did you both kind of stumble into the space? Maybe Rebecca, we'll start with you and then we'll go to you, Travis. How did you stumble into it? And then how did your two worlds combine to build this amazing brand?
Sure. So I was at True Place, which is a photography and virtual tour company. And part of their clients were in the vacation rental space and part of their clients were in real estate, residential real estate. And so I kind of slowly got introduced. I will say that I did start at True Place about 2 weeks before COVID. So getting to know the vacation rental space during a pandemic lockdown is not the best way to learn the ropes of this industry because everybody is so in person, face to face. It's very relationship focused. I leaned heavily on nice people, which are rampant in this industry, such as yourself, John, who are kind enough to jump on the phone with me and talk me through what I just got myself into.
Absolutely.
And then, kind of fast forward, to after leaving Venturi, I got introduced to Travis because a couple people were like, hey, before you, make any moves or anything, you should definitely contact this guy, Travis. Luckily, I trusted those people. So
horrible idea.
I know. I'm like, I don't know what you're thinking. But.
I know. So yeah, I learned to trust in Travis. I drove down to Charlottesville, and the rest is history.
I think it's funny too, because it's like, I'm not actually the person that convinced her. I don't know that we shared this story or not, but all within the same, I had been quietly searching for a co-founder for, months. Somebody that was passionate about our industry, not thinking about money, and just thinking about the people that make it up. And, you can't fake that. And so anyways, we went to drinks, and then we had dinner, and then I was like, this is actually going pretty well. Let's have, let's have one more cocktail and see if
One more,
this
just
is
one more.
really happening. And ironically, this is Charlottesville, home of Dave Matthews. And I saw a couple of friends sitting outside of a bar, and we joined them. And, one of them said, Dad and Dave are upstairs. I knew exactly who that was. And they just happened to be all connected to the music industry. And then Dave Matthews and a guy named Corn Capshaw, which, is not a very public name, but he's actually one of the most powerful people in the music industry, like voted #1 by Billboard. But anyways, Dave comes over to the table, and everybody's talking to him. It's just he's a normal human being, which he is a very normal human being. And Rebecca is like, where is this? What is this? What's happening? And so it's actually not, I'm not sure that I'm the one that convinced Rebecca as much as Dave Matthews potentially convinced Rebecca. And so I shout out to him.
Does Christina Thornton know this story?
No, but ironically, Sarah Bradford, who followed Dave Matthews back in the early 90s, does.
Okay, because Christina Thornton, and shout out to Christina and Thor Thornton.
Oh yeah.
She like worships Dave and goes to all his shows, and she's got like I don't even know. I don't follow. I used to follow the Fish back in the day. But yeah, interesting. That's amazing. That's amazing.
And story.
You're gonna get a call from Christina now, Rebecca, and she's gonna ask all about it.
Travis, like, talk to us about this, like, in your story too, man. Like, I knew you, and you and I were introduced when I was at Rented, and I think we were pitching you for a bunch of products at the time, and introduced and I think we ran around some conferences together. But I knew you from Stay Charlottesville, and kind of tell us your story, because it is a unique one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so just like just like many people in our industry, it's kind of an accidental happening where I built a guest house behind my house, thinking I was going to put my mother there when she got older or came to visit, and I ended up furnishing it and telling everybody, I was like, oh, I'm going to rent this out nightly. And everybody, being an urban market at that time, everybody was like, you're a complete idiot. This will never work. And, those are old days. So it's like glorified Craigslist, right? So like HomeAway, VRBO, FlipG, they all existed, but it's like a pay to play game. It wasn't a credit card processor. I mean, I literally had a credit card machine next to the sofa, which I enjoyed swiping on a regular basis. But I mean, there's 5 listings, 7 listings potentially, on HomeAway or VRBO. And, by 2010, when we actually founded Stay Charlottesville, which is something I don't actually talk about on a regular basis, because I founded it with a guy that I used to head up business development for a publishing company, and, creating new products. And the owner of that was, I would go on runs in the morning, and, I was telling him about the success of the carriage house, and it was actually kind of his idea. And I was like, well, I know how to do this. And he was like, well, let's start it. And I was like, well, this is odd, because you're also the owner of this company. You're already paying me to do this over here. And I'm like, but I'm not giving you, a like majority share. And so that was an awkward conversation. Great friend of mine still to this day. But we started in 2010. There's probably 20 listings on HomeAway, VRBO, and fast forward 2 more years, and it was like 60. And I think there's 4 different levels, at least I remember, on HomeAway. You have like platinum, silver, gold, and lead, or something like that. And we had nothing but platinum listings. I was like, this is stupid expensive. To stay on page #1. So I built it at that venue. And the same reason a hotel does is to put heads in beds, and that ended up working out, as an incredible marketing machine. And I was like, well, Charlottesville is surrounded by wine country. I was like, well, maybe I can take a stab at that one too and start a wine tour company. And that ended up creating another sales funnel for us. And fast forward, we had created all these different sales funnels, and I actually, Matteo, as Kristen could tell you, who worked with you at Rented, it's like who managed our revenue. It's like we were, on all of our larger properties, we don't use OTAs. And on the smaller inventory we do, and they actually outperform, 100%, 120% better than the market. I was like, okay, well, there's something here. And, around 2019, we started doing a lot of research within our industry. And, there's a lot of fear back in those days, as you guys probably remember, there was a lot of roll-ups happening, and Habit IQ had just, swallowed up everybody. Vacasa was still,
There's still a lot of roll-ups happening.
yeah, well, exactly. And, and there's, and everybody, it's like Vacasa. Oh my God, they're coming. And so, we originally were supposed to launch this project called Inspired Stay in first quarter of 2020. And, when one of the big guys from, the Outer Banks called me and said, "Hey, I don't think we're going to make it," during COVID, I was like, well, if you're not going to make it, we're certainly not going to make it. And
Yeah, that's that oh shit moment, right? It's like,
it was horrific. You just literally, it's like after, losing, so much money from an operational standpoint from all these different businesses where you just, it's just literally, I've never seen money fly out the door so fast. And then, staring at all these checks, that had signed up to be a part of what was called Inspired Stay originally, like, oh God, this is, horrific. And then, the part that we haven't really talked about is that we refunded absolutely everybody, but there's this beautiful woman in Bernardo Key who refused to take the money back. And so I put it into a trust account and I sat there staring at a very large check for not years, but, for quite a bit. I'm like, what are we going to, like, she won't take it back, but I'm not using this. And,
right.
We kept on getting calls and, you had that oh shit moment from, COVID, and it was horrific for everybody. And then it ended up obviously being the greatest thing that's ever happened to our industry, for the most part. Right. And so we kept on getting phone calls in 2021 and, people were saying, "Hey, are you going to do this?" And, I was like, yeah, we'll see. And, between, those phone calls and then, just sitting there staring at that check, I was like, all right, well, the only way I'm doing this is if I can find a co-founder. That person's got to be a heck of a lot smarter than me. And so, I just get to be the pretty face. Rebecca writes all the big articles, does all the hard work.
That's so funny.
That's a great story. I love that you were sitting on that check, and that oh shit moment at that time was really, I mean, it was palpable, right? Like people, there were a lot of house cards that were falling in terms of people's businesses. Like it was the litmus test. Like for
overall, the greatest thing that happened to our industry, but also like the most horrific. There's so many people that at the same time that lost their shirts, they lost everything, and they're out of the game. For whatever reason they weren't set up to weather the storm. And who would have known that that was coming? And I know, we're, a year and a half, 2 years out from when that hit now. And so there isn't much conversation that happens about it every day. Like it was everything and the only thing everyone talked about for a year plus. But, to think back to, now this far out, how many people, obviously you all did the right things. Many people did the right things. There was all these consolidation happening in roll-ups and, M&A and everything going on. And this happens. And that now you two have met. You got this, Rebecca comes into the space, like right when COVID hits in a company that, is, at that time, still I'm a big believer in True Place and especially their virtual floor plan tours. But which at that time, the real estate was great still, but vacation rentals were like, nope, shut down. There was nothing to go and do. Like, how did this, you all met and like, why this, what is the synergy between you two other than, that she's smarter and you're prettier?
Well, let me count the ways. I mean, I think starting with just like somebody who has like a marketing powerhouse, like she is, and then be like passionate. And of course, I'll let Rebecca speak. But I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I think one of the biggest pieces is like, for us, it's like I'm a vacation rental manager first and foremost, and completely understand this industry kind of inside and out, and understand all these different mom and pop operators that took it from soup to nuts. There's not a single piece of lingo I think out there that I can't relate to, and some way is like speaking that language, right? And then, Rebecca in 5,000 different ways, helping get that, some of that lingo out to best serve our industry. I mean,
Yeah, it's a lot of like everything is so great, but how are we going to get that straight to the guest, right? So being about marketing and branding and how you appear online, I'm obviously very passionate about this. And so when I got to meet folks who were in these tiny little nooks and crannies along the East Coast, and I thought, wow, my friends in California would love this place, but they're never going to find it.
right.
And then vice versa, like me trying to travel, to somewhere in like Jackson Hole and being like, I want to stay in a place that's kind of like where we were in the Outer Banks, but like not, and then like I only know where to go because I'm in the industry. And so when Travis and I started talking, there were obvious synergies between the two of us that if we brought our superpowers together, there would be no stopping us, even if somebody wanted to. But speaking of branding, I would love to just chat real quick about the logo if we can for the 100 collection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
first of all,
yeah.
whose idea was the 100 collection? Because it's way better than your other stay something that you had.
Well, thank you.
No,
So,
hold on. What was that? Inspired Stay?
Well, so
Yeah,
Inspired Stay, the funny part is Stay Inspired. It's owned by Hilton. And so the legal team at the time were like, you probably can get this trademark, but it's going to be a fight. And of course, like, in those times, I'm like, hell yeah, let's battle this. And then really, I mean, hell, we're on the No BS podcast. It's like what happened is like, I was just thinking about like the number one guest complaint right now within our industry is that reviews are complete bullshit. They can't count on reviews. And, it's like, every vacation rental manager knows what properties of theirs deliver 100% of the time or as close to it as possible. Well, let's just stop faking it and go ahead and like start putting it on our own damn sites and showcasing it and like making, the search a little bit easier. And, Rebecca and I were on a call yesterday, in our own neighborhood with a great person up in DC. And I think they've got, 90 something different properties. And, they were talking through a property with us and trying to explain it. And I'm literally, during the call, like trying to find that property. And then they, put the link in the chat. I was like, oh, damn. This is absolutely phenomenal. It like made me want to actually go to DC, like just to stay in that property. I'm like, and think about that, like from a guest standpoint, it's literally like somewhat like rocket science, like trying to find a great property manager and somebody who's going to deliver, what they say they are. And that's
it was in a gorgeous location, like great location, so convenient to everything. The photography was gorgeous. The interior design was perfection. But it was like finding a needle in a haystack, and I live here.
Unsearchable.
Yeah.
So tell us again. I apologize. I pivoted from.
I'm interrupting you. I want to hear about this logo, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Okay.
On how we got here. So
bless his heart, Travis had a logo designed for the 100 collection, and I was like, "How open are you to that being completely redone?" So I'm like, yeah. I'm really big on branding.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this should be redone. So I have a friend who works for the Mouse. So that I used to work with him and reached out to him, and he was like, yeah, I don't do freelance stuff. I was like, I know, but you're such a good artist that Disney hired you and I need a favor. So he actually designed our logo.
Oh.
Yep. So that, and the colors and everything is a very thoughtful process. And we got this wonderful icon to use for the 100 collection. And then what happened was that I said, this is great for the properties, right? It's our like Good Housekeeping seal of approval on the property, the 100 collection. But we don't just kind of Michelin star the property. We're also doing the whole James Beard thing around the VRN.
Oh, this is a good story.
Yeah.
So
we hired a PR person who actually brought the Michelin star to the US. She's, really big in the public relations industry. So she started working with us, and then she started talking about how every vacation rental manager really puts their own personal imprint on their brand and the properties that they manage. And then I thought about the actual fingerprint, and we even joked about how like a fingerprint image is not good because everybody in our industry will consider that like dirty, especially around like COVID, right? Like we don't have fingerprints on anything. So I looked at the imagery and I took the fingerprint and I plopped the pineapple leaves on the top
I'm
of
looking
it.
at it right now on the website. It's
So
super cool.
it's already a shape of an oval, right? A fingerprint. And then if you make it that gold color with the pineapple leaves, that just screams your personal imprint on your hospitality.
Super
So
cool.
my favorite part about this story, by the way, is like Rebecca and I had been working together for about 20, 25 days. You know, I kept on saying, you know, it's like a cross between like the Michelin star and the James Beard. It's like, you know, the very first and most important thing that we're doing is like we're finding the vacation rental manager and we're making sure that they're truly a part of their community. So like that's very important and that they're respected. And there's a lot of different pieces behind that. And then we're taking a look at the different properties, right? And so like the James Beard goes to the chef, the Michelin star goes to the restaurant. And so anyways, you know, we've been talking about this language for 20, 25 days. And, you know, Rebecca keeps on saying, she's like, you really got to meet this person. Like I've worked with her before. She's absolutely awesome. And she's done this and this and this. And like about 20 minutes into the call, she's like, oh, I get that. She's like, and I'm the one who brought the Michelin star and the James Beard, which is ironically the part that Rebecca actually left out. The person that was 20 days. I'm like, okay. But I mean, if you think about it, what I really love about what it is we're doing, it's like we're trying to put basically the Super Bowl team together, right? And so as a local vacation rental manager, I can't afford, you know, Lauren from a PR team or, you know, our designers or, you know, Kristen or what have you. It's like, but you know, as a collective, we absolutely can. And it's like, you know, our single most goal is just to be able to deliver, you know, these awesome different opportunities to local vacation rental managers.
As a big,
That's
I'm sorry, Teo, you're about to jump in.
what I love about that story is she didn't rest on her laurels. Like you guys actually talked through it, and then you found out that she was like, that's what she brought, and that was the connection, and that was what you were actually, you know, she would understand exactly what you're trying to do, and what you're doing right within that space, and I think that's phenomenal. So, ideally, where does this growth take the industry? Like, where did the 100 collection take the industry? Like, with what you're doing and where you're going and where we see you, taking this right now. Like, what is the industry's kind of in your way? Like, are you lifting sides? Are you separating yourself? You're separating yourself to a certain extent because you're cutting the fat, right? Like, you're investing.
You got, you know, folks like Lance and Ling from Chincoteague, from Seaside, right? Phenomenal operators, really well known, really well respected. And while I don't want to speak for them, it's like they're not selling their company, they're not ready to sell their company. And they have all these large groups coming down, you know, whether we're talking about OTAs today, or we're talking about some of these billion-dollar companies that are, you know, churning properties left and right. You know, they've got a lot of different things. And at the end of the day, like they are literally like the mayors of their community. And it's like, just, you know, we're ultimately like the top of the mountain, I think for us is keeping people independent, as best as we possibly can. And as a vacation rental manager, then also delivering, you know, from the guest standpoint, like really great, phenomenal properties. And then from a homeowner standpoint, actually showcasing some of the best vacation rental managers and taking a little bit of the guesswork out of it. So it's like, it's kind of, you know, it's like we have essentially 3 different customers.
Well, the interesting thing about this too, Travis, looking at this from the outside, looking in, you know, you're getting, you know, you have to meet all these criteria, which makes total sense. And you know, it's a brand and it's exactly where to. And we want to talk about brand here in a little bit. But it's a lot of these things that these, you know, very successful franchise models are bringing, but they actually have to sign up and be part of the franchise, which, you know, like some of those tools and some of that tech and some of that, you know, more on the marketing and exposure and stuff like that what you come with like involving and embedding yourself in a franchise as a franchisee, you're getting some of this as an established property management company, you know, and, you know, again, back to Elaine and Lance, great friends of ours, you know, shoot, they're doing amazing things. They're putting a new laundry in, like they're crushing it. And, you know, I think they just add another 150, 200 homes. I mean, they're scaling phenomenally. And you are right. They are the mayors of Chincoteague, right? And bringing some of this cool aspect of that others buy into in the franchise model but it's different. and it's curated, and it's more bespoke, and it's more, it's phenomenal. I love the idea of what you guys are doing.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I mean, it's kind of funny because I was, I was just actually recommending a different group the other day to the franchise model. What Kasaga is doing with Steve Schwab and Ryan Day. Like, I've watched them very much actually help people, and some people need to go that route, and they're okay with it, and there's some true savings to that. Other people, it's like, they want to keep their independent brands and not go that route, and so that's ultimately where we come in.
Right.
Sorry, just going back to what you kind of started out with, it's like we're the $14 billion spend, let's just be honest, from one of the larger OTAs. And you leave a lot of impressions when you spend that kind of marketing dollar. And if you leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth about your industry, it's really hard to combat that. So if we circle the wagons and we say, this is what this industry is, not that, right? If we tell this story, right, not that story, then the entire industry, it's kind of like the rising tide thing, right?
Yeah. Well, and what I like about it is because what you're doing is both at a certain extent, because you are rising the tide, but you're also separating at the same time, right? Like making a clear distinction in the brand, but also making the industry better by giving people the option and the choice, right? To remain independent, to have those tools, to not have to, to give them, like John just said, like, you can choose to go iTrip, Kasago, or these other routes, or you can figure out a route. There's room, and I don't know why it hasn't been more of a conversation and more people haven't been building and pooling resources to take the narrative out of the hands of those who don't give a shit about our industry and pool together all of the talent and all of the resources of those who do, right? Like, that's what I love about this, is giving the independent the opportunity to shine, to stay, and to exist. Because, like, that's really what they're going to be fighting for.
Can you say that again? All the people that don't give
like
two shits
that's
about
what
our
it
industry.
really
I mean,
is. Like, no, you think about the fear, but like, Travis, all the fear of the Casa or whoever was coming to town was, how does the independent survive? Right? Like, how do they combat these budgets and this marketing? And now it's a different world.
You bring up such a great point, because, one of the things, we were kind of dancing around. It's like the emotional energy that happened during COVID that was, taking a toll on all of us. Right. And the thing that saved me is I got on a weekly phone call with a group of guys. And we were talking about the industry. We were talking about what we're doing. We were talking about, PPP. We were talking about different people that can help, different loan programs. And I mean, it was religious. Like, everybody was in the exact same boat. Right. And so, just think about it. It's like, to your point, like, as we've been doing these calls, asking every vacation rental manager what your top 3 problems are, which was, the article that Rebecca wrote today. We did that in 2019.
Great article, and we'll link that as well in the. We'll link that article as on top of the 100 collection. So we'll have 2 links in the website as well for that.
And so it's just like, you were talking about Lansing Lane, and they're building a laundry facility, and they might have some questions about it, but these girls over in Nashville created a phenomenal laundry facility. Or this gentleman up in the Poconos, which I think you alluded to today, who's building these purpose-built homes, or CJ, who's building purpose-built homes, right? Yep. Everybody is like, as a vacation rental manager, it's like, we're supposed to wear like 50 different hats. We're supposed to know about SEO. We're supposed to know about marketing. We're supposed to know owner acquisition, owner retention, rate management, like all of this crap. Like, we're supposed to be, have our PhDs in it. And, we don't. Nobody does. I've yet to meet anybody that has a PhD in the vacation rental space. If you want to go,
it's coming. I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure you can go to Cornell and get that sooner than later.
It's just a huge opportunity by like building this network of all these best in class operators and being able to showcase, on an individual level to all these different people, hey, like, this is what they're doing, and it's really working well. It's like, there's a strength in numbers, and, Matteo, it's like, it's about the people that do care about our industry. And I think, the joke that I've had, quite a bit now, it's like, back in the day, it used to be really bad Hawaiian shirts and flannels at, these conferences. And now it's, it's like, you can point out, it's like, all right, these are vacation rental managers. These are bankers. These guys are working in tech over here. And so it's like, sometimes I feel like we're feels like a little bit of a dying breed, but I don't think it has to.
Are you still wearing the Hawaiian shirt?
Dude, it's gotten worse. Hawaiian shirts and flannels. It's just,
Are you always with the vest?
Oh yeah,
It's a fleece vest.
It's there's no dressing up in this industry. Nobody's wearing dark suits. They're just thinking about taking care of, they have different things on their mind for sure.
I think
the bottom line.
The interesting thing about what you just said here is, I don't want to use the word mastermind because that's not necessarily where the direction I'm trying to go. But these tight knit communities of people, Travis is, 5 or 6 things better, probably 20,000 things better than I do. Rebecca knows these different things. And we all have these different things that we're all these strengths that we bring to the table. And if you have a small group or, of people that you trust, and again, that's how you two came together with built on trust, built on a conversations that came. And then, obviously Dave cemented everything for you all. But having these people that you trust that, hey, when I run into this problem and I don't know how to go ahead and overcome it, I reach out to so-and-so, and because they've been there before, this isn't their first rodeo in that direction. And leaning on each other. And that's what, obviously not necessarily what the 100 collection is, but that's what is going to make our industry better. And, I think obviously that is part of what the 100 collection is to be able to go ahead and lean on each other and lean on your strength and lean on your failures and understanding where, so-and-so had to pivot because they came across this, and there's other people out there that are doing a really great job with this. Matt Landau's been, having his mastermind group for seeming forever now. And and he's been, this is everything he's built has been based on that. And it's super smart. And there's a lot more room for this. And it's where, truly it's where Verma is failing. It's where they're trying to go ahead and to do a better job, but it's not that they got too big. It's just that they've got unfocused.
Well, and they got narrow. Let's be honest. Like there's so much, like our industry got fragmented and it's so complex now. And there's so many different kind of corners that, whether it's the size of the operator or manager within the space, the region, the location, like it seems like when you're having all these fractured conversations, that identity has, and it's part of the reason, going back to what we were talking about before, the brand that will remain unnamed got to be the voice of the industry, because the real voice of the industry got fragmented and unfocused and somebody else took over. And they took over the market.
Well, there's a lot to be learned there. There's a story about Room Key that doesn't often get talked about, but that was back in 2010 or 11 when 6 hotel brands got together. And they're like, hey, we're losing our market share to the OTAs. This is a problem. What are we going to do? And that was one of their solutions. It worked really well. And a lot of the brand, it's just funny because it's like all the airlines and the hotels already learned this lesson, in 2010 and 11. And it's like, we've been watching it happen. And, I talk about this every once in a while, publicly, but it's like once Beyonce started staying in a vacation rental in San Francisco at $10,000 a night, that's when things started really taking off. Of course, Beyonce got paid probably a little bit more money than she spent, from a branding standpoint. But, there's a lot of awareness, and we've essentially been giving the power, to online, travel agencies. And don't get me wrong, it's like, there's a place for them. But it's definitely not a place where they're making up 80% or 90% of your business. 80%. I mean, it's like, you got to have like a good marketing strategy, And so it's like,
but even with
be able to use your,
like, as you joke, Travis, like you joke about people saying, well, I flew on a kayak. Nobody ever says that, right? But like, even with kayak, they still left the brand transparent that they were reselling, right? That is not happening with the OTAs. They've stamped their brand on the service or product they just sold.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, kudos to them. It's like, you go stay in one of our great estates, and it's like, John, if you go invite 9 of your friends from college to come stay in Charlottesville and you book it directly with me, when they all go back to their respective cities, what do they all say that they just stayed in?
Right.
Right. And I'm like, that's, well, they say that.
They say that they stayed in Airbnb because I booked it for them. And that's what, and I said,
Xerox.
And so
Like,
It's the
You know,
Kleenex. It's the
right. And it's like, and if you think about some of the complications that are happening there, it's like, one of the top things that's been brought up 50% of the time is people are dealing with regulations. And a lot of those are being born out of like irresponsible practices of one particular platform.
yeah.
And so when when the staff and government agencies are frustrated with it, they're complaining to the legislators, and then the legislators who don't have enough time to pay attention to every single detail are just like, we're going to vote this out. And so, one of our big missions, is we've branded all of our vacation rental managers as doyens, which by definition means the most respected or prominent person in the field. Which we would argue by all means, is Valerie Hawkins, or, I saw that, Hunter and Ginger, from Beach Ball, or Lance and Elaine, and, the 35 plus others. These, they're definitely, representing their community, and hopefully, we can help create seats at the table for them to help work with their legislatures and, their governments on crafting like smart regulations. But as long as like everyone's confusing us with the Kleenex, we're going to keep having problems, I think, as an industry.
Well, we're dealing with it here in Atlanta right now, and their agenda is not clear. Like it clearly, and the fight that we had is so unnecessary. And it's just mind boggling because I've never seen someone campaign so hard against something they profit from so much. And that's the part Rebecca, we could get into language and how they took over just it's the marketing. They got the voice, right? And that's, you being a writer and knowing how powerful it's not just the words, it's who's saying those words and how much, how big their platform and their megaphone is. Like they took it over and gave people convenience.
Yep. So everybody loves an underdog though. And as we take our story of the doyens, out to the influencers, that's what we're trying to do, is reframe not just the conversation, but the language people are using when they talk about us and they talk about our industry. These are doyens. These aren't hosts like Parasite. Like these are people who are giving back to their communities. And we're telling this story to like show you what's really going on with these brands. And it's good Samaritan stuff. It's, heartwarming stuff about guest experiences. So yeah, I'm absolutely about, let me tell that story. Let me tell it to everybody.
And that's a struggle we have, and that's the struggle we're going to have as an industry for a long time, is getting that right narrative out. And and it's working with these larger organizations. I know I kind of bashed Verma, and I want to take that back a little bit because I'm a proud member of Verma and on the committees and whatnot. But at the same time, we all need to do a better job to get the right narrative out there. And, I work for one of those large OTAs you talk about, right? But at the same time, it's how do these large OTAs, put their narrative out there as well? And how do, we're not saying book direct and book direct only. We're saying have a healthy, distribution strategy that is 60-40, 70-30, whatever it is that works for you. But promote your brand and get, and let's talk about brand here before we got to go. I want to talk about the 100 collection and how important brand is in getting this narrative across. Because we see it super successful in other verticals. We see it in all the other hospitality verticals, in flights, in hotels, and in travel in general. But we're starting to see it in short-term rentals in a positive light. So can we dive into that a little bit about, the brand? And, I know we talked about the logo, but why the 100 collection more, and what is the brand going to do for us positively in the future?
Oh, wow. Well, here, Rebecca, you talk about brand. I'll tell you some of the things that we're solving for. I think one of the funniest pieces is it constantly is getting confused with 100 destinations or 100 vacation rental managers. And it's really about delivering 100% of what it is that we say we're going to deliver. Go ahead, Rebecca. I'm only on my first cup of coffee this morning.
I'll leave one word. It's standards. Standards and consistency. It is brand standards. So everybody who's in the collection shares the same standards without losing what makes them unique.
And I think the thing that we'll end up doing for the industry in the long run is, ask yourself I asked this, I love asking this question. It's like, if you're going to go to Miami, Florida, and you have the option to stay the Days Inn and the Ritz-Carlton, both at $200 a night, which one are you going to stay in?
Ritz.
And if Ritz is 300 and 200, which one are you going to stay in?
Ritz.
Ritz, right? And we all know who the Days Inn is, Holiday Inn or whatever you want to call it in our space. Who's a Ritz? And I'm like, there is none. And Ritz, what it is, it's like, it's a brand that delivers an experience. If something goes wrong at the Ritz-Carlton, you got like 5 people there serving you champagne and you hope something else goes wrong, right? And it's like, and that's what our vacation rental managers are truly, really doing. It's like, just because we have great properties doesn't mean something doesn't go wrong. It's about how we're going to handle that experience though, right? We are going to pick up the phone at 2:00 in the morning if somebody's locked out. You're not going to be standing outside of your door. Like, that's our barrier to entry right now. I mean, that's, it's kind of sad, but it's like, that's happening. It's like, and, we've gone and we've polled God knows how many different people. And it's like, they literally, it's just people want to stop crossing their fingers and hoping that experience is going to be delivered. And so, that's what we've been doing. I think by this time next year, right now we're working on the rest of North America, north and south of the US. And then we're already starting to try to put teams together for Europe. And, we should be in hopefully 200 different destinations. But, ultimately, hopefully it's a brand that, that if you go look at our site, you go find, one of these operators, it's something that you're going to be able to trust to be able to take your family with. We have a great friend here in town who's ironically now becoming an investor in, the vacation rental space. I was asking him, I was like, he was talking about going to Malibu, California. And he's like, I tried to book a property. And the first one felt like fraud. The second time I tried to find a property, that felt like fraud. And then on the third time, he's like, well, I was just keeping my fingers crossed and like spending decent money to, invite his, college friends. It's like, and I was like, well, if you wanted to go find that experience in Wyoming or Jackson Hole, like, how would you do that? He's like, honestly, I'd probably call that operator, in Malibu and say, hey, who do you recommend?
Right.
And, that's like nail in the head. It's like, all right, great. That's like, Rebecca and I doing this research. It's like, we have a great team behind us. It's not just us. You guys saw a lot of the people wearing the 100 collection hats and some of the people that weren't wearing the 100 collection hats, but we got a good filtration process back over there and, be able to find these phenomenal operators. And so
how does an operator that's listening today want to go if they what we meet all this criteria? This is who we are in our community, and Rebecca and Travis and that team hasn't reached out to us. How do they go ahead and get a hold? And what is we've already talked about the criteria, but like what is what's it what's the take? How are you, without saying numbers, but like, what is your ask of them outside of criteria?
Well, here's my favorite part, and this is going to sound a little bit crazy. But the hardest part about finding Rebecca is also trying to find somebody who didn't want to turn this into transactional. And so we're not a transactional platform. We're teaching vacation rental managers actually how to make more money with their homeowners. So we're not building it off of their backs. To join and to be a part of it, people can go to the site and submit their information. But ultimately it's not up to us. And, I'll let the person's name remain nameless, but I have a great friend in our industry. And then when I personally thought that they were the biggest player in their area. And then when we realized that they didn't have any respect within the community. And it was just a hardcore no. And so, we've been lucky enough. I think we've been, operating well above the 95th percentile. I mean, as you guys know, there's 17,000 apparently vacation rental managers. I don't know where they all hide, but maybe they're all in Orlando. I don't know, who knows?
Probably the majority of them are, but
I think there's 700 vacation rental managers. I don't think I know. There's 700 vacation rental managers in Orlando alone, but it's finding the.
But what classifies a vacation rental manager? How many? Is it 5 units? Is it 2 units? Is it 1?
That's the cool part.
Well, it's we're looking at people based on the destination size, and every destination dictates something very, very different, right? And so Destin, Florida is very different than Charlottesville, Virginia, or Chincoteague, and most of the people that we can't be too public about all the different criteria because we don't want anybody trying to fake it. But these are people that have been operating for a bit, and it's clear they've got their stuff dialed in. They have safety standards in place. I mean, regardless of whether you're working with us or not, it's just a no brainer. It's like, please, for the love of God, put smoke detectors in your bedrooms, carbon monoxide. Like, these are simple things that we shouldn't have to say, but when you have people just jumping on line, putting their their properties on platforms, it's like there aren't safety standards in place. And when something goes wrong, it's making the news, and the first thing the locality is doing is look at it, shutting it down.
It tarnishes the, not only it tarnishes the platform, it tarnishes the industry, it tarnishes everything, and because that's what makes the news. The amazing things don't make the news,
Right.
well, as much as they should.
Right. And then, hospitality standards, having hospitality standards in place. It's, your great grandmother's couch is probably not going to get through the process. It's, unless for some reason it is intentionally designed to be a part of that. But, just like hotels, they generally replace their upholstery, every 5 to 7 years, 8 years. We've got, a little bit, simpler, hopefully well understood things that should be in place. And there's some more complicated filters, behind, but ultimately it's, people are inquiring, on our site at the 100 collection. And then, they're going to the team. We've got a great advisory board. We've got a lot of different players, like Hunter and Ginger, we had no idea they won Vacation Rental Management Company of the Year. It's like 1 in 17,000 chance. And so hopefully, we're filtering correctly, I believe.
I have a question. Talking about the filter, if a property management company has X amount of units, but only 50 or 75% of it meets your criteria, would you bring them on, or is this like
that's the best part. So if when you get a chance, I manage 65 properties. And I've got, I believe, 10 or 12 properties on the 100 collection category within our website right now. And I know which properties deliver. I know which problems, properties create problems. I know, every single one of these properties inside and out. I know which ones are, we need to, probably replace those couches now.
Right.
Trying to convince
or fire some owners, right?
I mean, exactly. But now, imagine this, right? So it's like, for the listeners, no longer are the vacation rental managers the bad people. So, hey, I got to go have a conversation with a property that's in a great destination out of the vineyard. And I'm going to say, hey guys, look, this property really should be a part of this collection. This is what it's doing. However, they're not ever going to let this property through with this couch. I highly recommend you replace it. I would gladly submit your property forward, but they're the bad guys. Like, perfect. Oh, by the way, like, you're in this category with, 1,200, then 1,400 other homes, across the US and, soon to be Europe. I mean,
I wouldn't say bad guys. I wouldn't say bad guys. I'd say independent evaluation programs.
Yeah, there you go.
That's why you guys come together, right? Travis, no bad guys, independent.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
The yin and the yang.
With the goal of having people step their game up, like hopefully people are learning, right? Like even the ones that don't make it or get on and at least, are looking and see that they don't hit the criteria. Like lesson, ding, 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 ding. Like, look, these, don't, go and just be the B-level operator if you have A-level dreams, right? Go read the Ritz-Carlton case study from Columbia. Like learn about hospitality, like truly, right? Like,
they did a study, or not a study, they did a kind of experiment in Japan where they put robots in the highest end hotels. I don't know if you guys remember this, but they thought, we're going to show how high end we are because everything's automated. There's just a robot that like delivers the stuff to your room, does all this stuff. It turns out that people who spend a ton of money don't want to face a robot first thing in the morning. They want somebody, a person, bringing them their coffee, smiling at them, wishing them a good morning. It turns out higher end actually means service, human to human level service. So I think that's what we're coming at with the 100 collection.
I love it. Hey, this is so amazing. I love what you all are doing. We could talk forever. We definitely want you back to hear about your growth. We want to hear where you are in a year from now. But for those of you listening to the podcast, make sure that you go to our Apple Podcast page, give us 5 stars, leave a written review, tell us what you think. Thank you so much for joining us.
Subscribe. Hey, before we get out of here, though, published author? someone in this thing is a public author and is out here slinging books. Also,
Yeah, it's not related to vacation rental industry. It's actually
Right.
a fictional book that takes place in Florida, unfortunately around hurricanes. So yeah, it's an adventure for sure in that
I
fiction.
remember you were talking about that, and that's awesome. So we definitely, we love to highlight the things that make you, and that's again, I would never write a book. I couldn't write a book. So like every time people are like, I wrote this book, and you like really wrote a book. Like it's not.
Hey, I mean, we are writing
We
with help.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
nope.
we're
I
writing with-
actually wrote it. It's not self-published. I had a publisher.
No, it's awesome. We love it. I need to actually read it, especially with the project that we're working on right now. I need to go ahead and read it as well. Thank you so much, y'all. We appreciate you. Shout out to the 100 collection. Looking forward to getting my hat, and we'll all the links on the website. And we're excited to work with it where you guys are going. Thanks again.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
again for having us. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to
Absolutely.
trading hats, man. It's a good looking hat.
This podcast is a Hospitality.fm production.